The giant ships appeared on a Tuesday morning. They came without warning. 7 massive vessels that blocked out the sun in major cities across the globe. Each ship was bigger than Manhattan. Dark metal structures that hung in the sky like mountains. Commander John Bailey stood in the United Earth Defense Control Room, his coffee growing cold in his hand. The wall of screens showed the same scene from different angles, the alien ships hovering silently over Earth. "What are they waiting for?" asked Lieutenant Samantha Wright, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. "They're making a point," John said, "showing us how small we are." The screens flickered, then filled with an image that made several officers gasp. The alien was humanoid, but clearly not human, with gray-blue skin, 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and a mouth too wide for its face. "People of Earth," it said in perfect English, "I am Grand Admiral Zexkull of the Galactic Empire. Your world now belongs to us. Surrender and offer tribute, or face annihilation. You have 6 hours to present your leaders for terms of submission." The message repeated in dozens of languages. Then the screens went dark. John put down his coffee. "Get me the president." Within 30 minutes, leaders from every nation were connected in an emergency call. Within an hour, the decision was unanimous. Humanity would not fight. Humanity would not surrender. Humanity would run. "Begin scatter protocol," John ordered. Across the planet, people received the same alert on their phones, computers, and televisions. Evacuation order HFY. This is not a drill. Families grabbed pre-packed bags and headed to designated shelters. Workers left offices and factories. Students were gathered from schools. The roads filled with people, but there was surprisingly little panic. They had practiced for this. For decades, Earth had prepared for the day aliens might come. Not with weapons that could never match an interstellar civilization, but with escape plans. In underground facilities beneath every major city, in hidden bases under the oceans, and in secret asteroid installations, thousands of ships waited. Not warships, transports. Fast, stealthy vessels designed to carry people away from Earth. Samantha coordinated the eastern seaboard evacuation from her station. New York Shelter Complex is at 82% capacity. Boston at 76%. Miami at 91%. John nodded. "How long until the first ship's launch?" 3 hours, sir, she replied. "We'll have the first wave away before their deadline." In their homes, people said goodbye to the things they couldn't take. In museums, art and artifacts were carefully packed by staff who had trained for this moment. In hospitals, patients were moved to medical transports with practiced efficiency. 5 hours after the alien message, the first human ships slipped away from Earth. They used the planet itself as cover, launching from the side facing away from the alien vessels. Thousands of smaller ships, each carrying hundreds of people, accelerated quickly toward pre-planned jump points. When the alien scouts finally landed, expecting to find Earth's leaders waiting to surrender, they found empty cities instead. Lights still on in buildings, cars parked neatly, food left on tables, but no people. In his command ship, Grand Admiral Zexkull received the reports with disbelief. "What do you mean, gone?" he demanded. "An entire species cannot simply disappear." But they had. Scans showed only a few thousand humans remained on the entire planet, mostly elderly who had chosen to stay behind. One such man sat in a rocking chair on his porch in rural Kansas when the alien scouts found him. "Where is everyone?" demanded the alien officer. The old man smiled. They ran. Ran? From the mighty Galactic Empire. To where? The man looked up at the stars just becoming visible in the evening sky. Everywhere. In his ship orbiting Mars, John Bailey watched Earth grow smaller on the view screen. Beside him, Samantha studied the data coming in from the evacuation. "Sir," she said, "we did it. Over 99% evacuation rate. 7 billion people. We actually did it." John nodded. "This isn't the end," "Lieutenant, it's just the beginning. The Empire thinks we ran out of fear." He turned from the window. "They'll learn we ran out of strategy." 6 months before the alien ships appeared, Dr. Alan Garcia sat alone in his small office at the Deep Space Listening Station in Chile. It was 3 in the morning, and he was the only one still working. His eyes burned from staring at screens all night. Then he saw it, a pattern in the background noise from the direction of Alpha Centauri. Not random, definitely artificial. His hand shook as he called his supervisor. 2 days later, Admiral Lisa Powell stood before the United Nations Security Council. "The signal is definitely artificial and definitely coming our way," she said, her voice firm. "Based on the speed and trajectory, we have approximately 6 months before whatever sent it arrives. I recommend immediate implementation of the scatter protocol." Some nations argued, some denied, but most had been preparing for this moment for decades. Within weeks, the hidden shipyards around the world increased production to maximum capacity. Joe Martinez had been a car mechanic in Detroit. Now he stood in amazement at the ship he would pilot. "She doesn't look like much," said the instructor, "but the Dawn Runner can carry 300 people and stay self-sufficient for up to 15 years. Your job is to get your passengers safely to Rendezvous Point Omega, 10 light years from here." Joe looked at the ship again. It wasn't pretty, bulky in the middle with long, thin engines at the back. But it was his now. His wife Diane joined him that evening in their small apartment near the training center. She carried plant samples in sealed containers. "How was botanist training?" Joe asked, kissing her cheek. Diane carefully placed the samples in a special cooler. "Intense. We have to maintain food production for 300 people in closed systems, but we'll make it work." She smiled, but her eyes showed worry. "Do you think everyone will really leave? The whole planet?" Joe nodded. "That's the plan. Better than surrendering to who knows what. Better than fighting and losing." Now, 3 weeks after the evacuation, Joe guided the Dawn Runner through the debris field of the Kuiper Belt. 312 people lived aboard, families mostly, with children who already treated the ship's corridors as playgrounds. In the hydroponics bay, Diane carefully pollinated tomato plants by hand. The bay was full of growing things, vegetables, fruits, grains, all carefully managed to provide ongoing food for the ship's passengers. "How are we doing?" Joe asked, entering the bay after his shift. "On schedule," Diane said. "First harvest in 2 weeks." She put down her tools. "Any news from Earth?" Joe shook his head. "Just the usual Imperial broadcasts demanding our return. They sound pretty angry." On the Empire command ship, Grand Admiral Zexkel slammed his fist on the table. The holographic display showed thousands of small ships scattered across the solar system, with more disappearing into deep space every day. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Their technology should be primitive." His science officer looked uncomfortable. "It appears we underestimated them. Admiral, they've clearly been preparing for this scenario for some time. Their ships are basic but functional. They seem designed specifically to scatter and hide." "Find them. All of them." Across the solar system, Imperial scout ships hunted for human vessels. Some they found, most they didn't. The Dawn Runner passed Jupiter, using the giant planet's gravity to gain speed. In the ship's small medical bay, Dr. Linda Brown delivered the first baby born in space since the evacuation, a healthy girl named Hope. On the bridge, Joe received a message through the quantum communicator, a device that let humans talk to each other instantly across any distance without detection. "Change of plans," the message read. "All ships in Group 7 divert to secondary coordinates. Imperial forces have discovered Rendezvous Point Omega. Admiral Powell sends congratulations on 6 successful weeks of evacuation. Stay hidden. Stay safe. Earth will rise again." Joe looked at the star chart, plotting their new course. "Where are we going now?" asked his co-pilot. Joe pointed to a small star near the edge of the map. "There. It's a longer journey, but safer," "What's there?" "Nothing yet," Joe said. "But by the time we arrive, other ships will have built a new home." Grand Admiral Zexkal stood on the observation deck of his flagship, staring at the blue planet below. Earth was beautiful, rich with resources, perfect for imperial expansion. But the prize felt hollow without subjects to rule. 10,000 years, he said to his second-in-command. For 10,000 years, the Empire has conquered worlds. Every species either fights and loses, or surrenders and serves. But humans. He shook his head. Humans just left. Commander Vril stepped forward cautiously. "Admiral, the human response is unprecedented. Our military doctrine has no protocol for this situation." Zexkal turned, his 4 eyes narrowing. "Are you suggesting the mighty Empire cannot handle a primitive species that runs instead of fights?" "No, Admiral. I merely suggest we may need new strategies. Our warships are designed for combat, not pursuit. The human vessels are small, fast, and surprisingly difficult to track." The Admiral waved a long-fingered hand at the star map. "They are scattered now, disorganized. They cannot build a civilization like this. Time is on our side." But as the weeks became months, Imperial frustration grew. The human ships didn't behave as expected. They didn't form colonies in obvious places. They didn't gather their forces. They simply disappeared. Captain Victoria Nelson's stealth vessel hid in the shadow of an Imperial communications satellite. Her ship, Shadow Dancer, was barely larger than a shuttle, with a crew of only 6. Their mission: gather intelligence on Imperial movements. Victoria floated in zero gravity next to the communications array, carefully attaching a small device to its surface. The work was delicate. One wrong move would trigger alarms. "How much longer, Captain?" whispered Lieutenant Ben Chen through her earpiece. "Imperial patrol is due in 17 minutes. "Almost there," Victoria replied, connecting the final wire. "Got it. Receiving data now." Inside the ship, Ben monitored the incoming Imperial transmissions. "This is incredible," he said as Victoria returned. "We're getting everything. Fleet movements, search patterns, internal communications." Victoria removed her helmet. "Anything useful?" Ben smiled. "Very. Listen to this." He played a recording of an Imperial officer. "These humans are unpredictable. They don't behave like any species we've encountered. Their technology is primitive but remarkably adaptable. And they're everywhere and nowhere at once. It's like trying to catch smoke with your hands." Victoria laughed softly. "They don't understand us at all." The data revealed something important. The Empire's ships were massive and powerful, but they were also easy to detect from great distances. Their hierarchical command structure meant they couldn't adapt quickly to new situations. Every decision required approval from higher authorities. The Shadow Dancer detached from the satellite just before the Imperial patrol arrived. Using minimal power, they drifted away, looking like nothing more than space debris to Imperial scanners. As they cleared the danger zone, Victoria gathered her crew. "We have what we need. The Empire expects us to establish traditional colonies on habitable planets. Their search patterns focus on Earth-like worlds within 20 light years." "But that's not our plan," said Ben. "Exactly. Our people are heading for locations the Empire would never consider. The moons of gas giants, asteroid belts, even the spaces between star systems, places their massive ships can't easily search." Meanwhile, on the Imperial homeworld, the High Council gathered to discuss the human problem. "This hunt has gone on for months," said Council Elder Draz. "Our resources are being wasted chasing primitives across space." Zexkal stood firm. "The humans must be found. If word spreads that a species successfully evaded Imperial conquest, others might attempt the same. Our authority rests on absolute power." An advisor stepped forward. "We have intercepted some human communications. They speak of something called the quantum network, some form of instant communication we cannot detect or track." This news sent a ripple of concern through the council. A species that could communicate without detection was dangerous. There's more, the advisor continued. The humans don't see this as a defeat. They call it tactical withdrawal and speak of Phase 2 in their plans. Zexkel frowned. What is this Phase 2? We don't know, but intercepted messages suggest it began 3 days ago. Across hundreds of light years, human ships received the same message. Phase 2 initiated. Operation Shadow begins. 2 years after leaving Earth, Frank Collins watched the Imperial supply ship through his binoculars. Once, he had built houses in Nebraska. Now, he led a team of 20 men and women who specialized in taking things from the Empire. Target is moving exactly as predicted, said his second-in-command, Laura Fisher. Minimal guards. They still don't expect resistance this far from Earth. Frank nodded. Get the team ready. We go in 5 minutes. Their ship, the Swift Fox, was small and looked like junk from the outside. Inside, it contained some of the most advanced stealth technology humans had developed. It could approach Imperial vessels without being detected. Remember, Frank told his team, quick and quiet. Take only what's on the list. Be back here in 20 minutes. The Swift Fox moved silently alongside the much larger Imperial ship. Using tools reverse-engineered from Imperial technology, they cut through the outer hull and entered the cargo hold. The Imperial crew, confident in their superiority, had only 2 guards watching the vast space filled with supplies. Frank's team moved efficiently, collecting specific items: medical supplies, electronic components, and data cores. They stunned the guards with non-lethal weapons and were gone before an alarm could sound. Back on the Swift Fox, Laura checked the inventory. We got everything. The colonies on Europa will be very happy. Frank looked at the data cores they had stolen. And Dr. Johnson will be especially happy with these. Dr. Olivia Johnson had never planned to be a resistance fighter. Before the Empire came, she had been a physicist working on quantum communication. Now she led the team that maintained humanity's secret communication network. At her lab hidden inside an asteroid, Olivia carefully examined the data cores from Frank's raid. These contained the Empire's latest encryption protocols, she said to her assistant. With these, we can listen to all their communications for the next 6 months. The quantum network was humanity's greatest advantage. It allowed instant communication between scattered human groups without detection by Imperial forces. Through this network, the Resistance coordinated raids, shared technology, and maintained hope. Across the solar system and beyond, humans had established hundreds of small colonies in places the Empire overlooked. Inside asteroids, beneath the ice of frozen moons, in the clouds of gas giants. No colony held more than a few thousand people, making them difficult to detect and impossible to destroy with a single strike. In his flagship, Admiral Zexkel reviewed the latest reports with growing anger. Another supply ship raided. That's the 3rd this month. He slammed his fist on the table. How can primitives do this? Our ships have the best security in the galaxy. His intelligence officer cleared his throat nervously. Sir, we believe the humans are using our own technology against us. They take our equipment, study it, and find weaknesses. Impossible. No species masters Imperial tech so quickly. The humans seem highly adaptable, sir. And they share knowledge efficiently between their scattered groups. We're not fighting a single enemy. We're fighting thousands of small units that all learn from each other's successes. On a small moon of Saturn, a council of human leaders met in a chamber carved from ice. Admiral Lisa Powell stood before them, older now but still commanding respect. Phase 2 has exceeded expectations, she announced. In 2 years, we've established 412 colonies across 38 star systems. Our population is growing again. The quantum network connects all human settlements, and our raids have provided us with enough Imperial technology to begin Phase 3. John Bailey, now a general, raised his hand. The Empire still controls Earth. Shouldn't reclaiming our homeworld be our priority? Lisa shook her head. Earth is heavily guarded. Besides, it's just one planet. Humanity now exists across dozens of worlds. We're no longer bound to a single home. An older man stood up. What exactly is Phase 3? Lisa smiled. For 2 years, we've been running and hiding. For 2 years, we've studied the Empire, learning their weaknesses. Now it's time to show them that humans don't just run. Her eyes hardened. We also bite back. Across human space, the message went out. Phase 3 begins. Operation Wasp's Nest is now active. Greg Patterson pulled his thermal suit tighter as he walked along the underground tunnel. Outside, on the surface of Europa, the temperature was minus 260 degrees Fahrenheit. Inside their colony, carefully built beneath 3 miles of ice, it was a comfortable 68 degrees. His wife Susan waited for him in their small apartment. She had prepared dinner with vegetables grown in the colony's hydroponic gardens. "How was work today?" she asked as they sat down to eat. "Good," Greg said. "The new heating system is working perfectly. Maria's design is brilliant. It pulls heat from Europa's core without leaving any signature the Empire could detect from orbit." Susan nodded. "The school is nearly finished too. 30 children now. Can you believe it? Babies born in space, now old enough for school." 3 years after leaving Earth, humanity had adapted to life in hiding. The colony on Europa was one of hundreds established in places the Empire considered too harsh for habitation. Some were built inside asteroids. Others floated in the upper atmospheres of gas giants. A few brave souls even established bases in the empty spaces between star systems, housed in massive ships that had been joined together. Maria Rodriguez walked through her engineering lab, checking readings from the geothermal taps that provided energy to the colony. Before the evacuation, she had designed power plants in Brazil. Now she created systems that could support human life in the most inhospitable environments in the galaxy, all while remaining invisible to Imperial scans. "Energy production is up 12% this month," her assistant told her. "We can support another 100 colonists now." Maria smiled. "Good. I hear the ship from Titan is due next week with new families." The colony on Europa housed nearly 5,000 people now. Deep beneath the ice, they had built homes, schools, hospitals, and labs. Children played in parks with artificial sunlight. Farmers grew food in specialized chambers. Engineers like Maria worked constantly to improve their hidden world. Sometimes Imperial scout ships passed by Europa. They never stopped. To their scans, the moon appeared lifeless, just another frozen rock orbiting Jupiter. The humans had learned to live without leaving traces. Their waste was recycled completely. Their heat was contained. Their communications traveled through the quantum network that the Empire still couldn't detect. In a secure room at the center of the colony, Greg attended a council meeting with representatives from other human settlements. Through the quantum network, they could talk in real time despite being separated by millions of miles. "The Ganymede colony reports success with their mineral extraction project," said one leader. "They can now produce all the rare metals we need for advanced electronics." "Titan Base has successfully grown the first Earth trees in their biodomes," reported another. "Oxygen production is increasing." Greg gave his own report on Europa's energy systems. Each colony specialized in different areas, sharing their advances through the network. After the meeting, a special transmission came in from Admiral Powell on the command ship Horizon. "Operation Wasp's Nest continues to succeed," she told them. "Our raids have reduced Imperial supply efficiency by 34%. But more importantly, we've gathered critical intelligence." The Admiral's face grew serious. "The Empire has begun withdrawing forces from several sectors to focus on finding our major colonies. They're getting desperate. But this also means they're learning. They've started looking in places they previously ignored, including moons like Europa." Greg felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ice above them. All colonies should increase camouflage efforts. Admiral Powell continued. And prepare evacuation plans, just in case. We've done this before. We can do it again if needed. After the transmission ended, Greg found Susan in their apartment. We might need to move again, he told her. Susan took his hand. I know. I heard rumors. She looked around their small home. It's funny. I was so sad to leave our house on Earth. Now I'll be sad to leave this place too. But you know what? Home isn't a place anymore. What is it then? Greg asked. Susan smiled. It's us. All of us together. Humanity. Wherever we go, that's home now. Outside their window, engineered lights mimicked a sunset on Earth. Children laughed somewhere down the corridor. Life continued, hidden but not defeated. Professor William Baker stared at the holographic display in his lab on Ceres base. Around him, 10 other scientists watched as he pointed to the image of an Imperial citizen. 4 years of study has taught us much about the Empire, William said. They look fearsome, but their society has critical weaknesses. Before the evacuation, William had taught biology at a university. Now he led the team studying the Empire's biology, culture, and technology. His lab contained samples collected from raids, Imperial food, materials, and even genetic samples. The Empire has ruled for 10,000 years, he continued. In that time, they've forgotten how to adapt. Their technology is powerful but unchanged for centuries. Their social structure is rigid. Lower classes are not allowed to learn or advance. He pointed to different sections of the Imperial's body. Their biology also has weaknesses. They evolved on a world with higher oxygen levels than Earth. In our atmosphere, they tire quickly. Their eyes are sensitive to certain light frequencies that don't bother us. This information had already helped human raiders. They now used special lights during raids that disoriented Imperial guards, but didn't affect humans. Across the asteroid belt from William's lab, Commander Nicole Harris prepared for her most dangerous mission yet. Her team had trained for months in a replica of an Imperial scout ship. Now they were ready to steal a real one. Final equipment check, Nicole ordered as her team of 6 prepared to board their small stealth ship. Unlike the raiders who took supplies, Nicole's team had a different goal: capture an Imperial ship with its systems intact. If successful, humans would gain access to Imperial navigation charts, communication protocols, and technology. The plan was simple but dangerous. They would place a fake distress beacon near Saturn. When an Imperial scout came to investigate, they would board it, subdue the crew, and take control. Imperial scout ships typically had crews of only 10 or 12. Remember, Nicole told her team, non-lethal force whenever possible. We want prisoners to question. As their ship approached Saturn, a technician activated the beacon. Now they waited. Hours passed before they got what they wanted: a small Imperial scout ship responding to the signal. Nicole's team watched as it came closer. Prepare to board, she ordered. Using specially designed tools, they cut through the Imperial hull and entered the ship within minutes. The Imperial crew, surprised by the attack, fought briefly, but were quickly subdued with stun weapons. Ship secure, reported Nicole's second-in-command. All Imperial crew contained. No casualties. Nicole moved to the ship's control room. Begin data download. I want every byte of information this ship contains. Among the captured Imperials was an engineer named Krell. Unlike the officers who spat curses at their human captors, Krell seemed curious. You are not what we were told, he said to the guard watching him. Our leaders said humans were primitive and violent, but you could have killed us and didn't. The guard, following protocol, didn't respond, but Krell continued talking. I am from the technical caste. We are not allowed to advance or question. But I have questions. He looked at the human technology the raiders carried. Your devices, some are based on our designs but improved. How is this possible? We are told no species can improve Imperial technology. When Nicole interviewed the prisoners, she paid special attention to Krell. Unlike the officers who refused to cooperate, he asked to learn more about humans. Your society. Anyone can be an engineer. The leader. This is not possible in the Empire. We are born into our roles and cannot change. Nickel saw an opportunity. Would you like to learn more about how we live? Krell's 4 eyes widened. This would be forbidden. But, yes. Within weeks, Krell became the first Imperial defector. His knowledge of Imperial systems proved invaluable. He helped human engineers understand technology that would have taken years to decode on their own. Your people adapt so quickly, he told William Baker during an interview. The Empire sees this as dangerous. They fear change. But I think, he paused, struggling with a concept forbidden in Imperial society. I think adaptation is beautiful. William smiled. That, Krell, might be the most human thing you've ever said. 5 years after the Empire came to Earth, Admiral Kevin Russell stood on the bridge of the Liberty, the largest ship humans had built since the evacuation. It wasn't as big as an Imperial warship, but it didn't need to be. Humans had learned a different way to fight. Operation Echo is ready to begin, said his communications officer. All teams report green status. Kevin nodded. Send the go signal. 5 years of running, hiding, and studying the enemy had led to this moment. Humans weren't ready for direct battle with the Empire's massive warships, but they had found another way to fight back. Across 50 star systems, small human teams activated special transmitters they had positioned near Imperial communication relays. These devices didn't damage anything. They simply added new data to the Imperial network, false data. In his office aboard the Imperial command ship, Grand Admiral Zexkel received an urgent message. A large human fleet had been detected near Alpha Centauri. Immediately, he ordered 5 warships to the location. At the same time, reports came in of human activity in the Ta City system, then the Epsilon Eridani system, then Procyon. Soon, reports flooded in from 20 different locations, all showing human fleets moving into position. Impossible, Zexkel shouted. They cannot have built so many ships. He was right. They hadn't. What Imperial sensors detected weren't real ships at all, but carefully crafted sensor ghosts. False readings inserted into the Imperial detection network by programmer Paul Edwards. Before the evacuation, Paul had designed video games. Now he created complex programs that fooled Imperial computers. His code didn't try to break Imperial systems. It simply fed them false information that looked real. As Imperial warships raced to intercept phantom human fleets, real human teams moved in behind them. These small, fast ships carried computer specialists who connected to Imperial networks and planted viruses designed by Paul. Sir, our ships at Alpha Centauri report no sign of the human fleet, an officer told Zexkel. They may have fled before our arrival. But the same report came from every location. No human ships were found. While the Imperial Navy searched for enemies that didn't exist, the real operation was happening elsewhere. The viruses spread through Imperial networks, not destroying data but subtly changing it. Navigation charts shifted by tiny amounts. Resource allocation tables showed supplies in the wrong locations. Communication channels had slight delays or occasional dropped words. None of these changes were big enough to notice immediately. But together, they created confusion and waste throughout the Imperial fleet. Supply ships arrived at bases that weren't expecting them. Patrols searched areas that had already been checked. Orders were misunderstood. The mighty Imperial machine, which had conquered 1,000 worlds through perfect coordination, began to falter. On a hidden base inside an asteroid, Paul watched the data flowing in from his viruses. It's working, he told Admiral Russell via quantum communicator. Their efficiency has dropped by 40% already. Kevin smiled. And they don't even know why. They're looking for sabotage, for damaged systems. They won't find any. How long before they figure it out? Our estimates say 3 months at least. By then, the viruses will be everywhere in their system. They'll have to shut down their entire network to remove them. An even more daring part of Operation Echo was already underway. Commander Sam Wright led a team that had infiltrated an Imperial shipyard. Disguised as maintenance workers from a lower caste, they moved freely through the massive facility. Packages placed, Sam whispered into his communicator. Timers set for 6 months. The packages weren't bombs. They were advanced computer cores that would activate after 6 months and begin transmitting all shipyard data to human receivers. By the time the Empire realized they had been compromised, humans would have the plans for every Imperial ship class. In his private quarters, Zexkel stared at reports showing increasing inefficiency across his fleet. For the first time in his long career, he felt something new. Doubt. How do they do this? He asked the empty room. We have pursued them for 5 years. We have superior ships, superior weapons, superior numbers. Yet somehow, they continue to elude us. And now they strike back. An aide entered with another report of missing supplies and ships arriving at the wrong destinations. Find me answers, Zexkel shouted. Someone must know what is happening. But no one did. The Empire, mighty and unchanging for 10,000 years, had never faced an enemy like humanity before. 10 years had passed since the day the Imperial ships appeared above Earth. 10 years since humanity chose to run rather than fight or surrender. Now, Admiral Catherine Winters stood on the bridge of the diplomat ship Hope as it approached the meeting point in neutral space. Imperial ship detected, said her navigation officer. They've arrived right on time. Catherine nodded. Take us in slowly. No sudden movements. The Hope was not a warship. It carried no weapons. Its mission was different from any ship in the human fleet. Today, it carried a delegation to meet with representatives of the Galactic Empire, not as conquered subjects, but as equals. For 10 years, the Empire had tried to find and subjugate humanity. For 10 years, humans had hidden, adapted, and slowly turned the Empire's strengths against it. Operation Echo had been more successful than anyone expected. The Empire's once perfect coordination was now in shambles. Their massive fleets chased phantom signals and false readings. Their supplies went missing. Their communications were unreliable. The cost to maintain their search for humans had grown too high. Imperial resources were stretched thin across their vast territory. Other species in the Empire began to notice the weakness. Some had already started their own rebellions, inspired by the humans who dared to run. The Hope docked with the Imperial diplomatic vessel. Catherine led her team of 5 representatives to the meeting chamber. On the Imperial side waited Grand Admiral Zexkel himself. Older now, his once bright skin faded to pale blue. Admiral Winters, he said, his voice tired. You are the first human I have officially met in 10 years of pursuing your kind. Catherine nodded respectfully. And you are the first Imperial many of us have seen outside of combat situations. They sat at a round table, a human design that the delegation had insisted on. No head of the table, all equal. The Empire has ruled for 10,000 years, Zexkel began. In all that time, we have never negotiated with a species that refused our initial terms. Humans value freedom, Catherine replied simply. We prefer to make our own way. The negotiations lasted for days. The Empire demanded that humans return to Earth and accept Imperial oversight. Humans refused but offered trade and knowledge exchange instead. Slowly, compromise emerged. Humans would be recognized as an independent species. They could continue to live on their hidden colonies and build new ones. Earth would remain under nominal Imperial control, but humans could begin to return in limited numbers. Most importantly, humanity would not be required to pay tribute. When the final agreement was signed, Zexkel asked a question that had bothered him for a decade. Why did you run? Other species fight for their homeworlds to the death. Why did humans simply leave? Catherine considered her answer carefully. Because we understood something fundamental. Planets are just places. Humanity is not tied to Earth. We are tied to each other. We chose to preserve our people rather than die for rocks and dirt. She smiled slightly. And we knew that if we ran far enough, fast enough, We could find a way to win without fighting. On a distant colony world orbiting a red dwarf star, retired Commander John Bailey sat on his porch, watching his grandchildren play in the artificial park. 10 years ago, he had helped coordinate humanity's great escape. Now he lived in peace on a world humans had built from nothing. A young reporter sat with him, recording his memories for the colony archives. Looking back, she asked, "What do you think was humanity's greatest strength? How did we survive when the Empire wanted to conquer us?" John thought about this for a long time before answering. "Pride," he said finally, "or rather, our lack of it. Every other species the Empire encountered either fought for pride or surrendered from fear. Humans did neither. We set aside our pride, abandoned our possessions, and chose survival instead." He pointed to where his grandchildren played with several young Imperials, children of defectors who had joined the humans. "Look there," he said, "Empire children playing with human children, both free to become whatever they choose. That's what we preserve by running. Not just our lives, but our way of life, our freedom to choose our own path." In orbit above them, an Imperial trading vessel peacefully docked with the colony station. Across the galaxy, humans emerged from hiding, not as conquered subjects, but as equals in a changing galaxy. A galaxy that was learning that sometimes the wisest response to overwhelming force isn't to fight or surrender. Sometimes the wisest choice is to run.